they would be too bothered about losing those two quick wickets. I tell you, if Virendeep Singh gets going and a couple of the other players play around him, if he is here till the 20th over, Malaysia still has a chance to put up a really good total. So folks, stay tuned in for the entire match. Only 4 overs in. Plenty of action to come. Played down the ground to mid-on for a single by Virendeep Singh. Vinod in for his second over, and that's 4 runs. As I welcome my fellow commentator, Sharad Swaminathan. Welcome, Sharad.
Thanks, Cash. Good to be here. Good day for cricket.
Yes, it seems like you brought a bit of a relief for the players, my friend. A big appeal as Shafiq tried to sweep that ball. You have brought a bit of respite here because I can't see the sun. It was quite hot when the match started.
Well, that's what Singapore does to you. A wild hoik there by Mohammad Shafiq. Singapore off to a really good start, 4.3, 17 for 2. If I was the coach for Singapore, I wouldn't be complaining at this point.
Yes, I totally agree, Sharath. Definitely a good start, but as I was mentioning just before you came in, it's still early days. As Vinod runs in. Played behind square, fine leg, sort of runs around for that single. If Virendeep Singh stays to the end, I'm not sure if you've seen him play before here locally in Singapore. He can launch them. He's a good bat.
That's a fantastic shot by Mohammad Shafiq. Took the risk. Something had to be done, and very brave to get a reverse sweep going. And he's got 4 runs for that.
Very well played indeed.
Coming back to your point, Cash, yes, no, I have seen Virendeep Singh. Absolutely, he's probably the 2 batsmen at the crease at the moment is probably their most dependable pair, going by history as well. So if Singapore can get some inroads with these 2 batsmen, Malaysia is certainly going to be in trouble.
Yes. But for the sake of our viewers out there, I certainly hope this ends up being a good contest. As much as I'd like Singapore to make another breakthrough right now, I'd also love to see a good contest and a good fight, which usually always happens between these 2 teams as we have a change of bowler.
Yep, young Janak Prakash back into the... he's bowling his first over for the game, and yeah, he's an exciting prospect for Singapore as he steams in. Starts off with a wide down the leg side. Janak, a very talented fast bowler, came up through the ranks of the under-19 levels, but certainly usually when he starts off his spell, has the issue of his wrist falling over and ball usually tending to go down the leg side, which he has struggled with in the recent past, but I'm sure a quality bowler like him will fix that.
Yes, but a very hard-working young man.
Cramped him for space there. Managed to sneak in one, Shafiq.
Yes, I was mentioning earlier, to me it also seems that the ball's holding off the wicket a bit, which is what's also resulting in those in them not getting the timing right.
Yeah, the Indian Association pitch at times can come off to be a bit of a two-paced wicket. And with T20 cricket, you have bowlers bowling, they change up. Well fielded of his own bowling. Yeah, because of the two-paced wicket, and considering it's hot and it's quite dry, the pitch tends to crack and open up just a tidy bit, which makes it a little bit difficult for batsmen. So it's really important that these two batsmen, Shafiq and Virendeep, once they've settled in, and in T20 you don't have that much time, but now that they've spent 21 balls altogether, it's critical for them to get Malaysia going to set up a good total.
Played down to mid-on for a dot ball. Yes, you're right. They're starting to build a bit of a partnership here. If these two can hang around for the best part of the rest of the innings, there will definitely be a competitive total. And I'm not personally very familiar with a lot of the Malaysian players, although I did commentate in the Stan Nagaya Trophy last year. Well fielded there at covers.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a seesaw journey between Singapore and Malaysia. Singapore beat Malaysia during the SEA Games, during the round robin stage when Malaysia got the better of them during the finals, but at the same time during the Asia Cup qualifiers, Singapore got the better of Malaysia. So it looks like they're very evenly balanced, and it just depends on how each team performs on a particular day.
Just ran that down towards third man. Virendeep for another single. One ball to come in Janak's over. He's recovered well after that wide on the first ball.
Yeah, I'm sure he's pumped. He took the first two catches as well, so, and both of them are quality catches, so pretty sure he'd be wanting to really contribute with the ball as well. Bit of confusion there between the two batsmen, but all's well that ends well with Malaysia. Good pressure by the Singaporean fielders.
Indeed, that definitely ended up being a risky single because of that confusion. I think Shafiq did the right thing. I mean, he played and he ran and he called immediately. Virendeep Singh should have just listened to his partner's call. I mean, that's something that at this level one would expect that to consistently happen.
Absolutely. So Cash, what would you do if you were in the Malaysian dugout at this point? 6 overs gone, a precarious 28 for 2. What would you be telling your players at this point?
Look, at this stage, now that the power play is also done, I would definitely want them to continue to keep rotating strike, and then just look to put away the loose ones. I mean, really just follow basics. Still 14 overs to come, and even at a 120 plus, if you can get there.
Yeah, I think Malaysia will do really well to get to a score of between 120 to 140. One thing that Singapore bowlers have really improved on is their consistency. They keep hitting the right length. They don't try too much, and they just try keeping it very consistent and help making the batsman make the mistake.
As Shafiq
Goes for a big hoik, and he's caught at long on. And this is what I keep saying, where Singapore has really improved is they've started to become very consistent with their bowling. They keep it there and thereabouts, and they make the batsmen go for the big shots, just like what Shafiq did right now, and they get the wickets that way.
Was that Janak again? Was that catch taken by Janak again? Here we see the replay. That catch was taken by Surinder, the dashing hard hitter for Singapore. His home ground as well, Singapore Indian Association. I've seen him launch many a sixes just hanging in his crease. It's a treat to watch when he gets going.
So you've had one stalwart in Shafiq go, and you've got Faiz come in now, who's also another senior member as part of this Malaysian setup. 28 for 3 after 6.2 overs. Salador, 2 for none.
Doing well.
He's probably bowled every single ball in the same spot.
Yes, we're about to find out.
That's the first run of Salador's bowling. He's certainly been someone who's kept things tight for Singapore and throughout their T20 journey, and the Singapore team really looks up to him to contain the batsman whenever he comes into bowl.
Yes, and if I'm not wrong, he recently took a 9-4. Was that him? Okay, I've just been informed by our one of our local umpires here, well-known umpires here, Richie Abraham, that wasn't him.
So Malaysia in a bit of a sticky situation here. Singapore's got, if you think about the Singapore setup at this point, they're extremely batting heavy, and they've got really strong depth in their batting. It's really key for Malaysia to put up a good total on the board.
Yes, Sharath, I'd have to agree with you 100% on that one. My apologies, it's Sharon, folks. I've kept calling my friend here Sharath. It is the first time that we have met, so I'm sure he will forgive me.
Oh, absolutely. Come on. Intentions are always clean.
Indeed. As we see the supporters out there in the pavilion, I can see Chetan Suriwanshi's dad, Rohan Rangarajan's dad, and I think it must be Timothy's family over there watching as well. Singapore women's team captain is also watching there.
Really good setup here at the IA. So if you're close by, do come along. Good encounter going on between Singapore and Malaysia. Looking at the bowling chain, so we've got a bowling chain. Ananta Krishnan is coming to the attack. Singapore truly going in here for the kill. They've brought in their ace leg spinner to come in and create a bit more havoc into the Malaysian batting lineup. Having a wrist spinner in the squad is always very handy, Cash.
Yes, and another player, Ananta, knows this ground very well. It is his home ground as well.
Good start by Ananta. Gets it up there. Certainly, every time you start bowling leg spin, you have a little bit of nerves going in, but good start. Got it up there. Got the batsman driving.
That's what you want. Faye's trying to come down the ground there, down the wicket, I mean.
So Malaysia would have come into their batting thinking there are a couple of bowlers they would want to target from Singapore in order to get the momentum going. So you can already see that they have a bit of a positive intent when they see a leg spinner, but that's where there's an opportunity for Singapore to capitalize as well.
As Virendeep takes another single, hitting down to long on where Surrender fires a throw back in.
Short ball from Ananta, but hit straight to square leg. Started off really well. First two balls up there. Probably wanted to contain the batsman and pulled his length a bit shorter. Key ball here for Ananta.
Much better ball.
Great fielding by Rohan. He really elevates Singapore's fielding with his fielding at point. He brings a lot of coverage on the field. Rohan Rangaraja.
Oh yes, very fit young fella. Another cricketer to come through the local ranks. I believe he was 15 or 14 even when he played his first game for Singapore, or 15 was he? We just we're having a bit of a laugh here in the commentary room. Someone just told me 10. Rohan Rangarajan.
Good shot by Faze. Rocked back onto the back foot and cut it square to the sweeper for one. Yeah, Virendeep back on strike. Faze and Virendeep are not new to Singapore conditions. In fact, they play Premier Division as part of the SCA League here in Singapore as well, so they would know these grounds extremely well.
Yes, and Malaysia needs them to come to the party in this innings. And back to Rohan Rangarajan, folks. Yes, he was 15 when he first played for Singapore. Still only 19 or 20, I believe. His best years are ahead of him as dot balls played out.
Yeah, certainly exciting talent. In fact, during the recently concluded Emerging Player Series in Singapore, he scored a 143 in the finals, which brought him a lot of recognition. Great fielding by Tim in point, cutting that down from a possibly 3 runs to 1. So Singapore's fielding and bowling have certainly held them in good stead in the recent past. Great efforts by the coach, the coaching setup. Not only have they had a head coach in Bilal Asad, but they've also had a bowling coach in the form of Fahad Masood working on their fitness.
And boy, does he work them hard on their fitness. Fahad Masood, former first-class fast bowler from Pakistan, their bowling and fitness coach.
Absolutely, and I've just been told they've also had Mr. Rehan, who's been helping them with their fielding as well. So, and you can certainly see the results in the way the team's been progressing. Great shot by Viren. One thing about Virendeep, he's got that lazy lankiness sort of to his batting, but he's extremely effective and he plays spinners with ease.
Yes, he does have a lot of time on his hands. Watches the ball very early. A hallmark of all great players who score big out there.
Talking about score big, Verandeep's partner, Emmett Faiz, is on the is at the crease at the moment. Also scored a century in the SEA Games, which was the 50-over event, and which won Malaysia the gold medal during that event. So, an extremely important pair betting at this point. That's it. Up in the air. Janak's come underneath, and he's taken a fantastic catch again.
Long off. Just what Malaysia didn't need.
We were just talking about the composure of Verandeep, Cash.
Yes. I mean, he settled in nicely at this stage in the 10th over.
The pressure was certainly getting to him. He's faced 23 balls, scored 17. You're into your 9th over. Malaysia, with 38 runs on the board, the writing was on the cards.
Yes. It is a game of the mind at this level. He knew it straight away. He hadn't got under it as he hit it. You could tell he had already started to walk, knowing that the ball's going to be caught.
It's a difficult situation that Malaysia are in right now. You face 9 overs. You want to get the momentum going towards your end, but with 4 wickets down, getting into the middle order, certainly going to be an uphill task here. But it's really important that calculated risks are taken at the right time.
Tried to cut there, but there was no room for him.
That's a short ball by Ananta, but whacked straight to square leg. The new batsman come in is Mohammad Siadat Ramli, another experienced campaigner with the Malaysian squad.
They're definitely going to need him to draw on all that experience to be able to give them a chance to put up a decent score from here. They would need to add at least another 60 in the last 10.
That's a shot down the ground, and it's gone all the way. Extremely brave batting by Mohammad Siadat, just coming into the crease. Second ball down the track, straight over the bowler's head. That's the confidence that Malaysia needs at this point. They have to take the calculated risks, and that in that ball it actually paid off. Great batting, just nudged it onto the leg side for 1 run. It's important that Malaysia has someone who comes in and just gets assertive and drags the Malaysian team towards a good total.
Indeed. You want that positive intent.
That's the word I was looking for.
In the end, fortune favours the brave.
Singapore have decided that spin's the way forward, and Vinod Bhaskaran's come in. He's done really well to open up the bowling for Singapore in the games preceding these ones. He's kept things really tight, always targeted the batsman's pads, and it's not gone for too many runs in his short career with Singapore so far.
Yeah, smart cricketer he is. Thinker.
Very traditional left arm, orthodox action, just walking straight through into the crease. Nice high arm release and going through the ball. Nothing uncomplicated about it.
was a bit of a nothing shot really, as you saw there, Timothy, on the crease. In the field.
Tucked away by Faiz for a single. Faiz, who scored that century during the SEA Games, is also now a program coordinator for the Bukit Jalil Sports School cricket program. So was Shafiq Sharif, as part of the Malaysian squad, which is an education scholarship for cricketers around the country, which is a fantastic initiative.
I would have to agree with that, Sharon.
I was watching the interview the other day as well, and the president was saying that most of them are contracted players, and the fact that they're giving back to the system in the form of education and cricket, it's just really good to see.
Definitely. Nice bit of keeping there by young Manpreet Singh. Single to end the over. 49. Oh, 50. 50 up for Malaysia in the 11th over. What's the bare minimum, Sharon, can you get away with on this ground if you were to defend? What would you want to have at least on the board? What number?
If you're looking at the current Singapore batting setup, you need to get somewhere in the likes of 140, 150 for sure. They're playing at home, they're playing on their home ground, a lot of depth in the batting, and a lot of brave cricketers as well. So certainly 150 would be idealistic, but if you look at 50 for 4, Malaysia would do really well to get in the 120, 125 space.
Looking more and more unlikely, although if you're a Malaysian cricket fan, you would, I'm sure, not agree with me. That, like you pointed out earlier, Singapore bowlers.
He's come down the track again, and he's hoiked it over long on. Fantastic shot by Mohammad Siadat. He's come in with a lot of intent. He's come in, and in his first 7 balls, he's hit 2 sixes. That is great intent, good batting. This is what the crowds come to watch. This is what makes cricket exciting. This is what T20 is all about.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Sharon. As the umpires thought that they had lost the ball, they're trying to recover. It's gone behind the commentary box here, almost to Balestier Road, just past the ground.
I'm really enjoying the way Siadat's come in and approached his innings. He's come in with no fear, and he's basically said this one way or the highway.
Yes, well, you do need someone to grab the ball by the horns, as they say, if Malaysia is to have a fighting chance of putting up a good total. I would say bring on some more sixes, Singapore fans. That will only make the game more competitive.
The players taking a bit of a break while the umpires replace the ball. The entire bowling unit surrounding the umpires, trying to gauge what's the best ball for this particular situation. Looks like they've come to a conclusion.
Yes, I mean, you would want to keep the momentum going. I mean, you wouldn't want to waste too much time. And they're ready Hanata is ready to fire it in again. Third ball of the over coming up.
Great fielding by Rohan. Again, that's another example of how he saves runs in the field. Really good fielder, very energetic.
Yes, I would have to say at least a half a dozen saved so far. Another dot ball by Ananta.
Great shot, rock back onto the back foot, pushed it away to a long on for a single.
Yeah, Singapore won't mind these singles.
And he's got him.
Smart stumping there.
And he's got him. Wild hoik by Ahmed Faiz. A lot of these experienced Malaysian cricketers, in order to create something, losing their shape and not hitting the ball cleanly. And that's just another example.
Yes, I would have to agree. And weren't you mentioning that Faiz also plays in a local league here?
Absolutely, he does, yes.
So he would also be familiar with the IA pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is what pressure does to you, and this is what expectations of getting a good score as well does. So, again, if you look at it, 12 overs, 57 for 5. Yeah, it's very important that someone can come in and with a steady head, but at the same time are able to take that calculated risk. What Siadat just has been doing since he's come in.
Yes, but from the batting side of it, with 5 wickets down and now getting into the lower middle order, how familiar are you with the rest of the lineup? Do they have any more good batters left?
Generally, at this level, you will have capable batsmen. And considering they've played a lot of Singapore and they know the different players, but you'd need someone to really stick their hand out. So, Aminuddin Ramli's also been part of the setup, and Siadat up probably their last hope.
Yeah, well, someone will need to stick around with him to allow him to do the job. Rotate strike.
Saeed Aziz, who got out trying to hit Vijay Kumar Salador over long on, was a massive scalp for Singapore. In fact, the last season just gone by, he's got a double century in the Premier League for CSC.
Wow.
So I'm sure he would have been coming into this tournament with a bit of confidence, a bit of runs in his belt. So that was a massive scalp for Singapore.
Good job by Singapore so far, as Vijay comes to bowl his last over. As you can see, the scoreboard on the screen now stands corrected, 3.1 overs. Single off that first ball, Ramli on strike, facing his first ball.
Well played. Straight through to covers for 1 run. Kash, you were mentioning Singapore and Malaysia playing a lot of cricket against each other. So just for the public domain, or just for public knowledge, a couple of tournaments that they play against each other is the Saudara Cup that they've been playing since 1970s, and the Stan Nagaya since 1994. How much of exposure have you had to these tournaments?
I have watched some of the matches. I covered the Stan Nagaya trophy last year, which Singapore won with a clean sweep, if I recall correctly. as this one has been hoiked out towards cow corner, cut off nicely by the fielder there for a couple.
Good intent there again by Siadat. He's certainly batting on another surface at this point.
Yes, so Stan Nagaya Trophy is named after Stanley Nagaya, who played for both the old Malaya when Singapore used to be part of Malaysia, as well as for Singapore. Hence the Stan Nagaya Trophy. And as I was saying to the audience earlier, a battle between these two teams as the batsmen head out towards covers, cut off by the sweeper there for another single. Selador ending the 4 overs in 2 for 11. Brilliant effort there by Selador as usual. So I was referring to the series or matches between these two teams as the Ashes of Southeast Asia, and I wouldn't be too far off it, as we will also see from the following of this particular match as well. I'm just going to try and get a look at the numbers.
Just on that point, I've got a really interesting stat here. The Saudara Cup has been played since the 1970s, and Malaysia lead Singapore 13-9.
Yes, I was looking that up earlier today as well. They do, but Singapore has definitely caught up. It used to be 13-6 to Malaysia.
Janak Prakash back into the attack, hit down the ground by Siadat for a single. And what's really interesting is Saudara in Malay means kinship. And the fact that they have a Saudari Cup as well for the women's team just goes to show that as much as there's competitive cricket, there's actually good relationships between the two nations.
Oh yes, I was saying that earlier off the field. There's great camaraderie. As Ramlee tries to charge at young Janak Prakash, resulting in nothing. So I was also looking up the history of cricket in Singapore and Malaysia, and the first recorded mention of cricket in Singapore was in 1837. My apologies.
It's a short ball and he's gotten away with it. And
It's
just
a
that's
slower
the first
bouncer.
Yeah, one for the over.
It's a slower bouncer too. Nicely bowled there by Janak. So the first recorded mention of cricket in Singapore was in 1837, when a Mr. Z or Mr. Z complained in a letter to the Singapore Free Press of cricket being played near a church on a Sunday in violation of the Christian Sabbath.
He's absolutely creamed that ball to sweeper. Sweeper cover for 1. Malaysia 64 for 5 after 13.4 overs. Mohammad Siadat looking really good, and to Malaysia's need and benefit, it's really important that he stays to the very end. From a points table perspective, folks, Singapore standing at the top with 3 points after 2 games. It's the 3rd game being played.
Yes, and as you can see on the points table, or as you saw on the points table, it is essentially a must-win for all the teams to give themselves a chance.
The loss that Nepal had to Qatar right at the start of the tournament really was a major setback for them.
Yes, and that's what has thrown the table open as well. Nepal supposed to be the strongest team out of the 5 based on ICC rankings. Tried to hit that straight down the ground over the bowler's head. I think Janak Prakash managed to get a little bit of a tip on it to slow the ball down. Another single. Good over completed by Janak, only 4 runs off it. Bringing back that history of cricket in Singapore bit I was reading you guys. So essentially, with that complaint in 1837 by Mr. Z, this resulted in cricket being banned on Sundays, a prohibition that remained in place until the 1930s. Would you believe it? They were not allowed to play cricket in Singapore on Sundays for that many years.
I won't complain with that, Cash.
Okay, all you young cricketers out there watching, ignore that comment from Sharon. If you love your cricket, you want to go out there and play it as much as you can.
Absolutely, Cash. I wasn't. I was catering to the target audience over the age of 35 years. So
yes, with the wives on your back, that one I would have to give it to you.
Appeal by Vinod, but looks like the ball was sliding down leg. Aminuddin Ramli can certainly benefit from watching Siadit's batting at this point and trying to gain the same momentum that his partner's been going through. Sweep short for 1. Singapore have really benefited by placing the right fielders as well. There's a number of times you've had big shots go straight to the fielder for 1, so which goes to show the bowlers have been bowling to their field and being very disciplined with their approach.
They have indeed, and they've been rewarded well for it too. And a great
That is a
catch,
fantastic catch by Tim.
Brilliant catch. Timothy David, a new addition to the Singapore team, as the batsman tried to reverse hoik that over Tim's head. Tall lad Tim took a great one-handed catch, as you can see on the replay.
And this is a massive wicket. Siadat was looking in absolutely great touch. He's absolutely creamed that ball to backward point. That had to stick.
And what a catch. So Tim, for those of who you might not know, Tim is a new addition to the Singapore team. He plays first-class cricket for Western Australia over in Perth, as well as played the BBL last season for the Perth Scorchers. He's of Australian origin and was born in Singapore, which makes him eligible to play for Singapore. A good addition to the Singapore side.
Absolutely, he brings in that, as much as we say, the all-rounder component to the team. Unfortunately, because of an injury, he's not been bowling, but good addition to the bat. Comes 1 down, really solid batsman. You have to be when you play first-class cricket, Cash.
Yes.
Talking about first-class cricketers, Singapore's also got a few that have sort of represented for a lot of first-class cricket in India, likes of Manpreet and Chetan.
Yes. And folks, on the scorecard there is a slight correction I would have to highlight. The keeper is being named as David. However, the keeper is actually Manpreet Singh. I'm sure we will have that corrected shortly on the scorecard on your screens. Again, swept out to deep square leg. Well-run couple, as the fielder had to dive there, which allowed the batsman extra time.
during a hot day at the Indian Association, the outfield's absolutely rapid, and you really need to get a lot of body behind the ball, especially when you're fielding in the boundaries. Aminuddin Ramli just absolutely wanted to throw the kitchen sink at that one. Missed it by a mile, but I like the intent.
Oh well, 5 overs to go, 4 wickets in hand. They want to try and maximize every ball from here on.
With 5 overs to go, we've got the skipper of Singapore coming into the attack. He's going to be extremely dangerous at this point because he's not only someone who can hit the block hole with his Yorkers, but he's also got the back of the hand
Slower
ball, which is extremely effective, and considering the pitch is holding up just a tad bit, it's going to be extremely dangerous for the Malaysian batsman.
Agree, Sharon, and I'm sure he'll also be keen, Amjad, the Singapore captain, to come good today. He didn't have a very good outing on the first game by his standards with the ball.
Certainly someone who's battled a few injuries along the way, and it's good to see him back on the field.
Oh yes, he has served Singapore cricket well for many years. Talking about serving Singapore cricket, another great bowler for Singapore, Shoaib Bhai. Would also like to highlight his efforts and service to Singapore cricket over the years. He is on the way to recovery from an illness at the moment, and we wish him, as the batsman steal a single, tried to look for an overthrow, but it was well covered by the Singapore fielder. Yeah, I would like to wish Shoaib Razak, Singapore fast bowler, former Singapore fast bowler, all the very best and a speedy recovery from all of us here.
Aminuddin Ramli's absolutely creamed that ball over square leg for 6. He waited for that slow delivery by Amjad Mahboob, and he's waited on that and hoiked it over square leg. Great shot. That's probably the momentum that Malaysia were looking for.
Yes, they need to build it up from here. As we know, anything can happen in cricket. Another 50 odd from them would be nice.
He's gone for another shot, and Tim David's not going to miss that, and he's caught it.
Taken it nicely. Another catch by Timothy.
Just got the knack towards the end to actually pick up wickets. All teams generally target him as well towards the latter parts of the overs, but there's something about his bowling that makes it difficult to hit. He keeps it simple, but it's tough as a batsman to execute your shot against a bowler like him.
Oh yes, especially when he is very good at holding back the pace as well on the ball, which you just saw as well. Didn't allow the batsman to get fully under that ball. That's also got to be the longest side of the ground around the cow corner.
Yeah, both cow corners are probably the longest side of the Indian Association ground on both ends.
Yeah, not a very big ground overall, but yes, these two areas is where you need that bit of extra power in your shots if you were to really clear the cow corners. 77 for 7. single stolen between point and cover. Singles are not going to do it.
Mohammad Fitri, the new batsman for Malaysia, left-hander.
It's the Malaysian team on your screens. One ball to go for Amjad.
The sun's back out again, Cash.
Yes, and I'm so glad we're sitting here in the air conditioning in the commentary box. It's quite an interesting run in for Amjad as he approaches the crease.
Yeah, he does a lot that goes against what a typical fast bowling action would be.
Yes.
You run in one rhythm, you take your big stride and you drive through the crease. He has more of a run in right up to the very end and jump in where all the momentum sort of lost, but that's when it goes to show he uses a lot of shoulder and he has really good wrists to bowl that slower ball. So, for kids out there, probably not the ideal action, but at the same time really effective though.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it almost looks like he's about to, as he approaches the stumps, he decides not to want to bowl and go for a walk, and back he zooms in again.
Well, if you ask him at this point in this heat, he'll probably want to do that.
Right about that, Sharon. As Anantha comes in for his third over.
This is going to be interesting. Malaysia wanting to up the ante towards the last 4 overs. You've got a wrist spinner coming in. At this situation, it's highly unlikely that Malaysia will stay quiet. Opportunity for both teams to...
Yeah, well, I am just wondering now with the lower order and catch
and hit straight to covers, and he's got him.
Straight out to extra cover. Amjad kind of leaped in the air. I mean, you know, he's got a heavy frame, almost would have caused a mini earthquake in that part of the ground. But good catch in the end.
Like I said, Cash, this is the moment where they wanted to capitalize, and it worked against them. But at the same time, good call by Amjad to bring in Anantha, and he's picked up his 3rd wicket.
Brilliant, brilliant effort there. All Singapore bowlers today. Anantha, number 1 of his jersey, definitely delivering like the number 1 bowler at the moment. 3 wickets in his pocket. Quite a lively character, young Anantha.
That's well bowled again. Bit of pressure on from the fielder. 1 run scored. Malaysia do really well to get to 110, 115 at this point.
Yes, it definitely would still be a below par score. It would take a special effort to win from that. There was another interesting fact that I picked up when we were talking about the history side of it, not so much between these two countries, but Singapore actually played a visiting Indian team here. In 1978, and it was a draw. I was actually trying to see if there was a way for me to find the scorecard online. I would have loved to have seen who was playing then.
That's it, up in the air. Hit. Chance for Tim, and he's dropped it. Oh. If you asked him, that was probably an easy catch by his standards, but certainly a difficult chance overall. Ball trickled away for 4 runs. Neville Christie going inside out. Tough shot to execute, but he hit it well.
Yes, a welcome boundary for Malaysia. Ananta's over has 2 balls left in it.
This is what you'll get with a wrist spinner, Cash. 4 overs, ideally finishing up with figures.
Cut off by deep square leg there, just a single. Yes, you're right. I mean, it is good figures for Ananta today. I mean, if you can keep your runs down to below 30
as a wrist
spinner, it's definitely a good effort.
So Cash, you were asking what does the batting look like for Malaysia. That's just an example there. These teams have played with each other so much that even a batsman coming in towards the end can come down the track to a wrist spinner like Ananta and milk him through long off, long on. So shows that they know each other really well, and even the batting order right at the bottom can play with that confidence. It's just about who sticks up on that particular day.
Oh yes, but of course your risk amplifies when you're 8 wickets down. You can see a lot of young cricketers, young upcoming cricketers for Singapore. Young Rahul Gune there, the shorter kid in the yellow t-shirt. He scored a century in the ACC Under-16 tournament held in Thailand recently. I can also see young Ishan Govil right behind him. He was also part of that ACC Under-16 Singapore national team. Some talented young cricketers up there. The future of Singapore. Ranveer Mungla is there as well as Janak bowls the first ball, single.
Coming back to the under-level cricket, such an exciting time for any nation, you know, that's up and coming to play your under-15s, under-17, under-19, be it the ACC or the ICC tournaments globally. Such a fascinating experience, and it's something that makes not only develops the kids from an individual standpoint, but also for their parents who've sort of invested so much into them. It's a great way for the kids to even just give back to their parents for their upbringing.
Oh yes, and with the T20 focus that ICC has, for the associates, did that brush the batsman as on the way down the leg? Because leg side. Didn't see a wide being called there.
No, it went through the batsman just over the stump. Slower ball by Janak Prakashan, attempted pull shot.
So yeah, with the ICC having that focus on T20 for the associate nations, you know, with 16 teams playing in the T20 World Cup, which is what. Just waiting for Janak to bowl that ball. Tried to pull that away. Only a single. Cut off by deep square leg. It's a very good opportunity for youngsters. In fact, with all the burgeoning T20 leagues all around the world, so even young cricketers from associate nations, you know of the young Nepal spinner, is it Lamichhane?
Sandeep Lamichhane.
Yeah, Sandeep Lamichhane played in the BBL.
There's a lot of history to that, Cash. I'll just take you through that in a second, and probably just for the audience benefit as well. So he played the Under-19 World Cups, and he was recognized by Michael Clarke for his leg spinning talent. And Michael Clarke took him to his club in Sydney, where he got a lot of exposure. And through that process, he was identified as being the next big thing. And from there on, he got the opportunity to play the IPL and the Caribbean Premier League, and it's fascinating just to see him in this tournament as well. So that's got
through
him.
the gates.
Great ball by Janak.
You miss, I hit.
Bowled a couple of slow deliveries, and they cranked it up, and like you said, straight into the batsman, and it's tough for a batsman down the order to actually execute a shot on that. So.
Oh yes, but you can't fault young Fitri for attempting that shot. 2 more overs to go. Malaysia at 88 for 9. Not a good story for Malaysian fans. However, folks, watching out from Malaysia and everywhere else as well, it ain't over till the last ball is bowled, till that last run is made. So you never know what's coming up next, although the Singaporean fans would like to believe that this should be an easy assignment for them coming in to chase this kind of score.
We already talk about how deep the Singapore batting lineup is, and they're still missing a key player in Arjun Mutreja, who cannot be part of this tournament, but with a consistent run score in the last year or so with Singapore. So it just goes to show the amount of talent that's here within Singapore. Great shot by Anwar through the offside for 1, as Anish does the fielding.
Another exciting talent for Singapore cricket, Anish Param. Although, and forgive me if I get it wrong, I have been travelling a fair bit lately, and I haven't kept an eye on the local matches. Lately, Anish hasn't been in overall great form as the standards that he's used to or accustomed to. Would that be right?
That would be right, Cash. But he's a quality player. He's rescued Singapore on a lot of occasions. He plays for the Singapore Cricket Club here in Singapore, and is one of their key batsmen. About 8 months ago, he was the person that scored a century against Oman in the Asia Cup qualifiers. He was a top run getter in the Asia Cup qualifiers, and that was a tournament with the likes of UAE, Hong Kong, Nepal. So yeah, he's been struggling there, but that happens with all quality batsmen, and you just need that one good innings, and good batsmen will always come good when the time counts, and don't think that's too far off for him.
Oh yes, as they say, form is temporary, class is permanent, and he is indeed a class batsman. Played in different parts of the world too, as I was saying earlier. He's played over in Tasmania, he's played over in England, club cricket. Very experienced. Smartly played
by
out
Neville. Yep.
to the covers there. Malaysia.
Neville's only played 6 balls, but he's looked really good. He's had good positive intent. His feet's moved really well. He's had good technique with his batting. Certainly does not look like a lower order batsman.
Yes, and then bringing it back into all the young kids watching out there, that intent bit is just so important. You look at him, he's batting at number 10. Doesn't matter, he's looking to hit every ball. That's what you want, and Anwar steals another single.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Cash. It's only tape for yesterday. I was watching a documentary on Alistair Cook, and he mentions it himself. He's not the most gifted batsman going around, but what he said was he was someone who always made sure that he approached his innings with the right intent to show the opposition that he meant business on that particular day, and he stuck to what his strengths are. And that is extremely important, and it's such a great message Oh, he set it up
That
in the
should
air.
be taken as the fielder runs in from long off.
And he's got him. Easy
Takes
catch.
it. Chetan Suryawanshi, the stalwart of Singapore cricket, former captain until very recently, runs all the way out from long off to take a nice catch.
Malaysia all out for 92, and they will certainly be disappointed with your efforts with the bat. Certainly this wasn't a 92 sort of wicket. They just did not execute the right shots at the right time and probably lacked intent, the word that we've been talking about.
Yes, certainly was the case. I felt when they lost those first couple of wickets quickly. In trying to conserve wickets, they played out too many dot balls. And whether it's ODI cricket or whether it's T20 cricket, when you bring it back to the basics, you must look to run hard. And I felt that they definitely lacked that today. It would be interesting to see if we can get some stats on it, on how many dot balls were actually played out by Malaysia. So folks, the Malaysian innings has ended. Umpires walking off the field and the ground staff tending to the wicket. We will be back with the chase shortly. Don't go away. Stay right in. We might also look to play some of the highlights, some of the replays during the break. So stay tuned in, continue to like and share with your friends the newsfeed in your newsfeed, so other supporters can come and watch the game as well. Be back with you shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks, to this Singapore versus Malaysia cricket match coming to you live from the Singapore Indian Association grounds here at Balestier Road. Singapore about to commence their chase of 93 runs for a win, or to get a win in this ICC World T20 Qualifiers Asia Finals. I have here with me my fellow commentator Sharon. Welcome, Sharon.
Thanks, Cash. Yeah, good to be back, and I'm sure Singapore will be looking to get another win on the board, which will continue to keep them on top of the table. They're opening the innings with their dependable pair of Surendra Chandramohan and Rohan Rangarajan.
Yes, two of my favorite players. Well, I'm biased actually. They're all my favorite players in the Singapore team, having watched them play closely over the years. But Rohan Rangarajan is another one of those players, as you were talking about Virendeep Singh earlier. Very classy batsman, technically correct batsman, but watches the ball very early. And I like to say for him that he, in fact, has so much time on his hands that he would even have a sip of a cup of tea before playing his shot.
Yeah, that's what all elegant batsmen have. Malaysia opening the bowling with Neville Christie, left armer, coming in. Tends to bring the ball back into the right-hander. Starts off with a full ball on the off, left alone by Rohan. Rohan will be certainly coming into this innings with a lot of confidence. Did pretty well in the T20 games against Pakistan, a squad, the PK Gladiators, that were here recently.
Surrender at non-strikers.
Energetic appeal by Neville. Ball certainly going down the leg side. As we see on the replay, good swing by the bowler, good control.
And nicely played out by Rohan, that ball. And with that length, it is so important to get your head to the ball. You've seen some very good batsmen getting out as well when you have that kind of swing in the ball.
And he's bowled him.
Oh.
He's gone to the defense of Rohan, ball swinging in, and he's cleaned him there.
He tried to play him out towards mid-wicket, tried to play over the infield, the ball staying very low.
He absolutely threw everything at that. You don't get his head down to the ball. His head just lifted up, bit expansive, and he's gone. Very unlike Rohan to be playing the ball across the line. He tends to hit straight down the wicket.
Or should I be calling this the commentator's curse?
Probably it is. We've been talking him up quite a bit, Cash.
Yes.
And yeah, he's had one of those off days, as Tim Davids come to the crease, comes in with a lot of reputation behind him. He's got a charged up Neville Christie coming in, dipping the ball into the right-hander.
This is going to be an interesting contest, folks who are watching at home. Do like and share our feed. Get more supporters to come in and watch.
Confident start by Tim, and he's absolutely crashed that through mid-off, and it's run away to the boundary for 4. Crisp drive, feet to the ball, straight bat, beautiful shot.
Beautiful shot, played uppishly, but hit the gap.
Absolutely. Pierced the field. Good confident start by Tim. He'd enjoy that.
Yes, and so will the Singapore fans. Defended solidly, but again, you look at that intent in that defense as well. The ball was met with a big thud of the bat. All the youngsters watching out there, good lesson to learn.
Tim's hit that straight to mid-off with a quick no. Looking really good. 3 balls in. He already is looking to stamp his authority in the game.
Yes, I mean, if you want to win the game, you will need at least one player to bat through, and both of these guys are quite capable of doing that for Singapore, with plenty more to come.
Absolutely. Looking at Tim Davids at the crease reminds me of a lot of the teams around the world that's very open to inviting players who can represent their nation, and this is even going to the likes of Owen Morgan captaining England. You've had Geraint Jones representing PNG. You've had Ryan Campbell playing for Hong Kong, again being Australian and being English. You've had the like of John Davidson represent Canada, being Australian
And
origin.
who was the Australian origin player who played for the West Indies, or who also had
Brendan
a West Indian?
Nash.
Brendan Nash, that's right.
Who had represented Queensland in state cricket, and got the opportunity to represent West Indies. It's just fascinating. And even the likes of Usman Khawaja, Fawad Ahmed representing Australia.
Yeah, although Usman Khawaja was 3 when he moved to Australia. Yes, he was born in Pakistan.
That's got the edge, but straight through to short third man bowler. Really lucky to get away with that.
Yes, indeed. But chasing 93, I mean, yes, you want to get the run rate as high as you can if it comes down to that on the points table. But you do have a luxury, or you do have the luxury of a bit of time to still be able to do that, rather than trying to play any risky or dangerous shots. Not that I was referring to the shot per se earlier.
Yes and no, Cash, because these totals are the tricky sort of totals where if you go out with that messaging in your mind, there is the tendency for players sometimes to get a bit complacent. So the likes of Tim Davids coming in and hitting the first ball for 4, if it's in his zone, he's just still being aggressive. And in my view, it's important for batsmen to show that intent and to play it like they're batting in the first innings of a game. Just to play with that intent so that they can finish off the game without being too complacent and thinking of the smaller total.
Okay, still get a single from that one. He wouldn't complain about that, folks. All these knowledgeable pearls of wisdom that we continue to get from my fellow commentator Sharon is due to the fact that he is himself a cricketer who went through the junior ranks in the UAE, played for UAE under 15s, under 17s, and under 19s too. Is that correct, Sharon?
Yeah, Cash, you were not. You were good bowling by Aziz. You were not supposed to bring that up.
No, I wanted to highlight that because, you, like these cricketers out there, especially having played in an associate cricket nation, would know the effort involved, and specifically, it all comes down to that passion side of it. So I mean, I would love to hear your story so that our viewers can also, especially the young kids out there, can learn from it.
Well, Cash, you've put me on the spot here, so Look, it's really important when you love the game so much. You spend a lot of time. You need to obviously enjoy the sport. So maybe we'll just let this ball go through first. What a shot by Tim. He's absolutely creamed that.
Went like a whistle.
That was a brilliant shot by Tim. Gave himself a bit of room and absolutely creamed that through mid-off and covers.
Or as Ravi Shastri would say, I was hit like a trace
Tracer
bullet.
Yeah, it's good to see him batting with that intent and batting with that confidence, just coming in and not letting the bowlers dictate terms. And that's a close call by the bowler. Probably got a little bit of bat onto that.
As well as he was coming quite far forward into that shot, that probably also helped his cause for that particular ball.
Yeah.
But yes, please keep sharing your journey, your experiences as we go through this innings. Definitely a lot to learn for young kids from it.
Oh, that was an absolute freebie to Tim. He's absolutely crashed that through mid-wicket.
And it's a no
And
ball
it's
as
a no
well.
ball, which means it's a free hit next ball. So this is going to be very interesting. Neville, who had a lot of control during his first over, as soon as he's seen someone dictate terms, he's lost the plot just a little bit. Yeah, this next ball is going to be very interesting. And you can't change the field as well, considering it's the same batsman. So he's probably going to look to go straight.
Whoa! That almost took out Surender's head on the way to long off.
Yeah, lucky that there was a fielder at long off. Just the one run, not too much damage caused off the no ball. Yeah, Cash, just coming back to, the youngsters, when they love the sport that much, it's a great opportunity to represent any nation. And a lot of time has been spent as well. But what is really important is to get the basics right. When it comes to batting, when it comes to bowling, it's really important for them to know the kind of player they are and use that to their advantage, and not to try something that's not something that's within their skill set. And it's really important for them to be really disciplined as well. And what I mean, well played by Surender. Probably will come back for 2.
It was very nicely placed. He knew exactly where those fielders were.
Yeah, so just coming back, it's really important for a youngster to be extremely disciplined with their cricket. I see a lot of youngsters here in Singapore sometimes rock up to games with their kit bag not even opened up from the previous game, or just sometimes they come to games and the wrong T-shirt's been bought. So it's really important for them to have a lot of discipline, and that shows that they appreciate the game. Oh, that could be a run out, and it's very close, and he's gone.
Direct hit
from point. Bit of miscommunication from the batsman, and Tim Davis is run out. That's a massive setback for Singapore. He was a long way.
Definitely a big bit of miscommunication, because Surinder was not interested in that run from the word go. Maybe that initial first small step to look for that run, but as the ball had gone straight to the fielder, he hadn't moved.
One thing that I picked out when Tim Davis came, as soon as he faced the first ball, he was communicating to his partner. This is what the ball did: it's come in or it's moved out, and that communication looks like it was something that Tim Davis relishes. But when you see probably the other batsman batting, and we can even use the next ball as an example, as soon as Surinder faces it, it's important for a batsman to tell to their partner, this is what the ball's doing, this is how it's behaving, this is how the wicket's behaving. And that's where sometimes there's a bit of a miscommunication because of the expectations of each player at the crease.
Yes, and then it comes back down to the hours you put in practice as well. and if you look at it overall with Tim just coming into the setup, from that running between the wickets point of view, most of the other batters in Singapore are quite used to each other's running styles.
That's the exact same shot, the exact same fielder, and you could see that Manpreet basically knows Surrender would not go for that run and did not take that start. But yeah, coming back, so I represented the UA under 15 for the first part of when I started playing cricket, and that was under the guidance of Syed Abid Ali, the ex-Indian cricketer. And moving on from there, went on to captain the under 17 for the UAE, and at that point we had Roger Binney as part of our coaching setup, which was playing the usual Asia Cup qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers, and so yeah, it was a fantastic experience because the likes of Angelo Matthews was captaining Singapore, Sri Lanka. You had Mushfiqur Rahim representing Bangladesh, and Mohammad Nabi, the captain for Afghanistan. So it was fascinating. So now to see them obviously do really well in their careers for their respective nations is just fantastic to see.
Oh, that's amazing. That's there's definitely at least half a dozen stories there that I can expect from you, from all the names that you mentioned that you played against. So please keep them coming.
Oh, let's focus on the game, Kashan. No, I would just say that certainly that sort of upbringing sort of helped me get that guidance. And here and coming back to the setup here in Singapore, and all the other nations were bold. All the other nations, I'm sure their coaching panels got very capable people, and it's important for them to guide youngsters in the right way. So here you've got Bilal, you've got Arjun Menon, and you've got Chamal, all of them from a coaching standpoint really making a huge difference.
There you go. That was
great shot by Surinder.
Inside out.
Inside out over point.
It was almost made it look like Dhoni's helicopter there as he finished that swing.
The only difference is the ball went on the other direction.
Well, runs are runs. It's interesting though when you talk about the youngsters bit and having that right attitude, and down the ground for a single. I have had these discussions on several occasions with a lot of my mates here in Singapore, and one of the things peculiar about Singapore is it's just the lifestyle. It makes people comfortable, including the kids. You don't have that real struggle, say somewhere like a Bombay, where you have to travel by the train for 2 hours just to get training, or if you're in a place like Sydney or Perth. Single behind square moves the score to 24 for 2. Decent start. Of course, they would have not wanted to lose those 2 wickets, but that's part of the game. So bringing it back into it, places like Perth or Sydney, you would still be driving. I mean, you may not take public transport, but you drive like half an hour, 40 minutes to training. Another single.
Really good batting by Surendran and Manpreet, the new batsman at the crease. Both of them nudging the ball, grabbing the singles, just knowing that the big shot's not required, and paying respect to the bowler where it's due. So good, intelligent batting. And taking advantage of the bad ones. That's exactly the basics you want to stick to, right? If you look at it, like for like at this stage, Singapore has definitely, rotated the strike a lot better, which is in the end going to be to their benefit. But yeah, so then again, talking about that bit here, I mean, it's so easy to get around,
it's so easy to hop into that Uber 10-minute ride. Everything's done at home with all the helpers in most of the cases.
It's a wide down leg side. They go for the single, and they manage to sneak in a run as well. So that's 2 runs without a ball being bowled this over. Look, Cash, yeah, there is that convenience factor here, but that should not come in when it comes to sporting. When it comes to sporting, everyone for various sports, not just cricket, should go through that rigor. And it's really important because that sets the foundation for a good sporting career. And that is something that all kids watching should make sure that they push themselves and they go at 100% every time they're at training. And they also know when to execute their skills and when they need to sort of be a little bit conservative as well. So it's really important for kids to understand that, and that only comes through guidance. And it's really important for coaches and assistant coaches to play that sort of role. But what kids can do is to bring the right attitude, and that attitude is what will take them to the next level.
You read my mind on that one as I was about to state exactly that. Driven hard down the ground by Surinder for a dot ball there, 29 for 2, Singapore of 4.2.
Yeah, good shot from Surinder for no run. He's someone who does not probably have the best technique, but he's an extremely effective batsman and can hit the ball a long way. He was the top run scorer for Singapore in the T20 qualifiers going down leg. He was the top run scorer in the T20 qualifiers just before this tournament for Singapore, and hence would be also entering this tournament with a lot of confidence.
And he knows the pitch like the back of his hand. It's something that actually he keeps in his back pocket. If you ask me, I've seen him score a number of centuries on this ground at will. There was one that I remember distinctively where he scored 100 dot ball there out to point or more backward point, where it was a reduced T20 to 12 overs because of rain, and he scored a century in the 9th or the 10th over when he had opened the innings. So he knows this pitch really well.
As Neville Christie comes into bowl, Manpreet's gone for a drive on the offside for no run. I really like this bowler's action. He has a really good rhythm to his bowling, comes in and dusts the ball back into the right-hander. The moment you see someone who's starting to dictate terms or to get on top of him, he sort of loses his direction a little bit. But here, the batsman's playing him a little bit more conservatively, and he's come back on track to do what he does best, which is pitching the ball right up and swinging it in.
Yes, it could just it's straight back to the bowler. It could just help him to try and avoid those wides. Never helps a bowler's cause. 5 overs gone, 30 for 2, folks. As Surinder takes a quick sip of water in this heat.
This heat is quite sapping, Cash.
Yes, the humidity. When I first moved here, I always tell people this story. I used to get really annoyed when I was out walking on the streets because I just thought people walk so slowly in this place. But then 5 minutes later, I would be all sweaty. It's like I had to go home to have a shower and change my shirt. That's when I figured out this is why they walk so slowly, and I started doing that. So yes, it is the heat can be sapping. You can see Chetan Suryawanshi's dad there in the white shirt. Single stolen to mid-wicket.
Syed Aziz coming in for his second over, had a decent first over just for 3 runs. He's become a well-known figure here in Singapore, Cash. He's, as I mentioned before, in a Premier Division game against CSC, he scored a 200, which is not very common these days. Had an absolute ball on the field, and nice contributing from Malaysia with the ball.
Yeah, it was again another one of those almost like a slower, you slowed down the pace on that ball. Singapore going along nicely so far. Driven out to mid-on for another single. Keeps us, or brings us back to that bit about the importance of rotating strike. Another thing all the youngsters out there should be looking at this Singapore approach to try to inculcate that in their games.
What Surendra just did over there was something very typical to him. He tends to gain some momentum by lifting his front leg. Not a proven technique for batsmen around the world, but does him well.
That's what and absolutely marooned that one. And that's a 6. Bang. Almost ended up as a flat 6.
It's just funny that after lifting his leg, he ends up in the same position before lifting his leg, but it's just that it gives him some momentum.
Oh yes, but see that's the thing that they say, right? You talk about bowlers and you think of Jasprit Bumrah. When certain things work for certain batsmen, just don't tinker with it.
What you just said, Cash, reminds me of George Bailey stance against.
Oh yeah. He just kept getting stranger and stranger with that with that stance, didn't he?
Yeah, the one where he was where his bottom was facing the bowler.
That's right. But he did manage some runs too, so that was the other interesting part.
It'd be interesting to show the public what we're talking about. Not sure if that's possible.
We will find out. Okay, 6 overs gone, 38 for 2 folks. You know, when you were talking earlier about attitude and having that right attitude, Sharon, I was reading this article about a young lady who is a world champion in fencing for Singapore in the junior ranks. Nicely bowled by Anwar for a dot. Folks, Sharon has just stepped away from the mic. He is trying to get us that image on the live feed of George Bailey's stance that we were discussing earlier. But talking about that attitude bit about bringing that 100% to the field every single time. Dot ball again. Not every day is the same, of course. And there will be days when you may not feel 100%. However, driven to the onside for a single. That's the first run in this over on the 4th ball. That's probably one of the slowest starts to an over so far for Singapore. Dot ball to short cover. So yeah, on those days, this young lady was talking about those days when she wouldn't feel at her best, where she wouldn't feel like she wanted to be there because of whatever reason, but at the same time she would bring it back for herself by reminding her or herself that regardless, I am here, so I should be giving that 100%. And that's what always kept her going, and that's the attitude bit which is required if you want to succeed.
It's all about controlling the controllables, Cash. So if that's something within your control, you give it 100%. Things that are not in your control, you leave it out.
Spot on, Sharon.
And so I have been successful in sourcing the images, and we were talking about how certain people have certain habits, and if it works for them, they tend to stick with it. So not sure if the viewers have had experience or have watched the likes of George Bailey of Shivnarine Chandapal batting, but we've been lucky enough to find those images, and we'll put that up shortly, and we can just talk through that a bit, Cash.
That sounds good. Always good to get different perspectives, and definitely when it comes to that George Bailey stance, though, I wouldn't recommend to any youngster out there to attempt it personally.
Surya Chandramohan pulls that ball to deep square leg, very close to rolling onto his own wickets at that ball. 1 run scored. Siadat is a new bowler coming from Malaysia, bowls offies.
So what is your area of specialty on the cricket field, Sharon?
Absolutely nothing, Cash.
Just
stand,
turned
stand.
up and captained UAE under 17s.
There's
the stands.
There's the stands, folks. So in 2017, George Bailey's stance was the one extreme left. We'll come back to that in a second. Short ball, and they've managed to scamper through for a run as well, like by. So yeah, that's the stance, folks. So 2017, George Bailey said, this is how I'm going to stand, because it just prevents him from opening up. And the following year, he turned even more to show the bowler his backside, which is what really worked for him. And great shot by Manpreet. 1 run scored. The following year, he turned his body a bit further and started scoring even more runs. And there was a running joke with the Australian team that at one point he'd be facing square leg.
Driven straight to the bowler by Surendran. That was a dot ball to complete the over. 8 gone, 44 for no loss. Singapore cruising along nicely over here in this match.
The other image that was thrown up was Shivnarine Chandapal's stance, and that's a stance that he's been batting with for a very long. In fact, he still plays first-class cricket and he bats that way.
Oh yes, I think he's batted like that his whole career.
Absolutely.
But then he has that. He moves across as the bowler is just about to bowl, so.
That's it, up in the air, falls safe, and they go through for 2 runs after a misfield at long off.
Nice looking shot there by Manpreet.
So we were talking about this. There's a lot of technically sound batsmen like your Kellis of the world, your Kohlis of the world. They have a trigger movement. So that's just the trigger movement for them before they can come back into that natural batting position.
That's exactly the word I was trying to look for. Getting old here, folks.
That's why we're commentating with each other, Cash, to help each other out.
I'm definitely glad you're here, Sharon.
Manpreet hit that ball to long on. He's certainly one of the better players of spin going around in the Singapore side.
Oh yes, and a hard-working cricketer too. Again, if you bring it back into youngsters, especially the youngsters here in Singapore, I'm always watching Manpreet Singh. He's also part of the Singapore coaching setup for the youngsters. Very sincere, honest cricketer and coach for the youngsters.
Well fielded, great fielding and mid-wicket by Fitri.
He didn't quite connect it though. I thought that shot.
Nah, went through a bit early with the shot. Lucky to keep it onto the ground, but no damage caused. I really like the looks of Anwar. Really good action. Nice and energetic.
Nice and energetic and easy. 9 overs gone, 48 for 2, folks. Malaysian fans, bring on the cheer for your team online. Ask all your friends, share the feed, ask them to come and support. Send that energy through the internet to your cricket team to come out there and pull up something from their reserves to make this game more interesting. At this stage, it's looking a one-way street.
Malaysia, a country with some decent, in fact world-class facilities in the form of the Kinrara Oval, the Biomass Oval, and the turf pitch at the university.
Oh yeah, as well as the Royal Selangor Cricket Club ground as well. Beautiful grounds over in Malaysia. They look after them well as well. And having said that, I must say, with the amount of cricket that the IA ground gets in Singapore, constantly you have to doff your hat to the ground staff here at IA, especially Aparna and
Yusuf. Absolutely.
They work hard day in, day out to get contests happening here. And this is something that goes unrecognized.
Yeah.
Generally, we take our ground.
We take it for granted.
Yes, we do, as they steal another single. So yes, thank you to both our groundsmen and all other ground staff here at IA for keeping the ground in such good condition, especially out at night here, folks. It is a beautiful sight, this ground under lights.
So Virendeep Singh come into the attack. Bowls his left arm spin, more of a arm bowler rather than a big turner of the ball. Has a bit of a side arm action rather than your traditional over the top bowling of your peak.
Yeah, it just seems like he just sort of pushes the ball through.
Yeah, similar to Vinod in terms of just trying to target the batsman's pads. It's a great sweep shot by Manpreet. He should get 4 for that. Oh, that's really well fielded.
Brilliant fielding out at cow corner.
Great fielding to keep the batsman to 2. Yeah, he targets your pads, but he's not a big turner of the ball, whereas Vinod, for that matter, considering he's more the up and over right from the very top, he targets the pads but gets the ball to turn away as well. So different bowlers, but sort of hitting the same length.
That's and played inside.
Beautiful
out.
shot by Manpreet. That's his go-to shot. He's a class act when he's actually playing over the infield through the offside.
I tell you what, though, I wasn't aware of the field. I'm certainly glad he was when he played that shot. I almost had my heart in my mouth going, okay, where is the fielder?
Yeah, he's a great player through the offside. In fact, he is him and Anish are probably your 360 player in the Singapore squad, and they play all shots effortlessly.
Oh yes.
Singapore certainly benefited with a lot of the expats coming into Singapore and to form part of their cricketing setup. You've got your homegrown talent in the form of Janak and Rohan.
Well, Janak, Rohan, Anish, even Reza.
Yep.
So they definitely complement each other well.
But you've certainly got the likes of Surendra Chandramohan, Manpreet. Played by Surendra Mohan. Great shot for 4 runs through covers, making batting look really easy. The way the Singaporean batsmen have approached the innings, very different to the Malaysian batsmen, but at the same time it looks like they're batting on a very different surface. Probably a bit more brave than the Malaysian batsmen, you would say?
Oh yes, I mean, isn't that why they say fortune favours the brave? If you look at that intent side of it, intent with both taking the singles and intent with wanting to put that right ball away, which is there to be put away. Sticking to the basics.
Absolutely, and shot selection has been a massive part of this innings so far.
And as I was highlighting to you earlier, for those who've just recently joined in, you know, I mean, this is Surendran's home ground. You know, he carries this pitch in his back pocket. Just knows the two-paced nature of this pitch. Dot ball. Good comeback by Shahadat. Singapore now only needs 32 runs. Ho ho ho! Surendran! He's certainly woken the crowd up. The ball has landed in the ground next door, out at deep square, or sort of behind square. That's Surendran for you folks. When he gets going, there is no stopping him. In the first game as well, he scored, I believe, about 47 or 48. So he's been in good nick. Certainly positions Singapore well for the last match that they're playing against Nepal. Nepal is, of course, the highest ranked team in this tournament, in this ICC World T20 qualifiers Asia Finals. Only the top team will go through to the next round, which will then decide the winners who will go and play the T20 World Cup in Australia next year. So a lot at stake here for all the teams, and none of the teams can afford to lose any of their matches. So Singapore will be happy if they can now go on to win this match comfortably, which will also help with their run rate. Malaysian fans, don't give up though, as we have seen over many cricket games. A quick couple of wickets and things can change very quickly.
It's going to be tough, Cash. A couple of more wickets I don't think should really make the difference as well, because of Singapore's really strong batting lineup. Like I said, it's really important when playing against Singapore that teams try and take advantage of Singapore's bowling, but batting is something where I'm pretty sure Singapore can compete with some of the top associate teams because of the depth.
Oh yes, look, I would have to agree with you completely on that one, as that one's played out for a single by Surendran. But cricket's a funny game. I remember watching a game, IA versus CSC, I think it was Division 2 or Division 3, and CSC needed 7 runs, 4 wickets in hand, and they lost the game by 1 run.
Wow.
On this very ground. And the funniest thing was, I was watching with my son, and there was a couple of his friends there too, if I recall correctly, and I said, and they were like, okay, this game's done. I said, well, you know what? You never know till the last run is scored. And literally, a couple of wickets fell straight after, and bang, the game just completely turned on its head.
Yes, absolutely. Cash, it's 4:24 p.m. here in Singapore. A lot of the public will be signing off from Friday and finishing up work. We'll be tuning in just to see what's happened with the games. As Surendra Chandramohan
Gets another boundary.
gets another boundary onto the leg side.
That was a gift, really,
Absolutely.
that ball. And Surendran makes the most of it.
So I thought it would be a good opportunity just to go through the proceedings that has happened through the first innings. So Malaysia batting first, scored 92 runs. Virendip Singh scoring 17, Mohammad Siadat scoring 22, and Shafiq Sharif scoring 12, and Aminuddin Ramli getting 12 as well. The rest in single digits.
Wickets.
From the bowling front, Amjad Mahmood and Ananta Krishna picking up 3 wickets each, and Salador bowling a miserly spell of 4 overs, 2 for 11. Janak and Vinod Bhaskaran picking up 1 wicket each. With Singapore, we've lost 2 wickets, and Rohan Rangarajan getting bowled in the first over of the Singapore innings,
Very unusual for him.
and Timothy David getting run out, which could have caused a bit of a hiccup, but now these 2 batsmen have done really well. They steadied the innings, and they're looking to cruise to a convincing victory here for Singapore.
Indeed. They're going to put us out of our job a lot earlier today, Sharon.
I'm not going to complain.
You've obviously got a beautiful drive straight down the ground, straight past the bowler, motored along for a 4 by Surendran. They're in a hurry now. And Surendran, the way he plays, would also be looking to go for that 50. He always likes to convert his starts. 78 for 2.
Why do I think he's going to go for another big one here, Cash?
And there you go. Well, didn't quite connect it in the end. I thought he would have launched that ball out onto the other side of the ground, but anyway.
The snake field.
But anyway, I don't think he will complain. He's retained strike. Bringing in their fast bowler, Fitri Muhammad Sham. Oh, my apologies. Was that the...
Yeah, it's Muniandi. Let's come into the bowling attack.
I'm sure Surendran's going to try to knock the ball out of the park. Down the leg side. Again, that little dance from Surendran. Perhaps he wants to tell the bowler that he is here to party on the crease. Make most of every ball by whacking them all around the park.
He has absolutely...
smoked it!
That's gone on to the roads at Balestier, for sure.
Yes, I'm sure we're going to see the umpire or the third umpire running to the field with the box of cricket balls happening right as we speak.
Hey, Cash, would you have a count of the number of balls that's been lost in the tournament so far?
I've only just come in, but today, because I was actually overseas and traveling, so I haven't seen much of the games either, so that's why I'm also happy that you're here today. Well, today's game we've lost 2. It's not surprising though, as we were talking earlier, not a big ground. And some of these guys are big hitters.
Nicely played down to long off. In one of the practice games where Singapore were playing the PK Gladiators, in just one of those T20 games they had lost 9 balls.
Wow. Would that be some kind of a record, one would think?
I would like to think so. And that was just one game, and the PK Gladiators were here for a month. So they played 5 50-over games and 5 T20s as well. So I'm sure there was a lot of balls floating around.
I reckon they should actually approach the Guinness Book of World Records to see if there is such a record. And if it isn't, then they should look to register it.
Considering this is an international game as well, of course, for sure.
Yeah.
You might want to take that up with Saad, Cash.
Yes. There you go again, that little dance of the front leg. Look at that, they just keep rotating strike, keep bringing in the big ones, and now only 4 runs needed. Manpreet on strike. Is he going to try and finish it off this ball?
I don't think so. Surendran's batting on 49. Might want to give him the chance to get his 50. It's always prestigious to be getting a 50, especially when you're playing an international T20.
Oh yes. Look, I would have to agree, and also agree with you that yes, I am sure Manpreet will allow his senior partner to get that 50. They're going to take at least 2 there. Yep, Surendran retains strike with 2 needed. I'd love to see him finish it off in style at this start of the next over. Folks, as this game is drawing to a close, there are 2 more games tomorrow, and as I was mentioning earlier, all important games. I'm just about to bring up the schedule for you so I can tomorrow it's going to be 9:30 a.m. Singapore time, Kuwait versus Nepal, and 2 p.m. is Malaysia versus Qatar. With this loss, I think Malaysia would be pretty much out of this tournament because they've lost another game as well, if I recall correctly. However, important enough games for both Qatar and Kuwait and Nepal tomorrow.
And that's the 50 for Surendran. 50 of 42 balls, massive effort from him.
He will be happy with that one. After the first match, I had seen a post from him about having scored 47, missing out on the 50, but very happy that the team had won. This was on Facebook. So I'm sure he's happy going 1 up today. Well played, Surendran.
This would be the first 50 for a Singaporean international in international T20.
There you
and
go,
that's the
and
winning shot for
Manpreet Singh in style. Brilliantly played by Singapore, won by 8 wickets. Surendran not out on 50, Manpreet Singh 26 of 28. he will be happy with that time in the middle too, with that important game coming up against Nepal.
That'll be a cracker of a game on Sunday.
Oh yes, indeed. And depending on Nepal's results tomorrow, it will, if Nepal win tomorrow, it will essentially end up being a virtual final on Sunday between Singapore and Nepal. They've kept the best game to the last, and there's the excited crowd also in the pavilion balcony there. All of them happy faces with this performance from Singapore today.
Yeah, Singapore will be extremely happy with the way they've gone in the tournament so far. It's been 3 out of 3 for them.
Folks, thank you for tuning in. The man of the match will be coming up shortly. Who would be your man of the match, Sharon, as you see the players shaking hands?
I would certainly say the bowler set it up for Singapore, and in my view it could potentially be Amjad Mahboob or Salador Vijaykumar. Now Salador obviously bowled in the power play, bowled 4 overs, picked up 2 wickets for 11 runs. But at the same time, Amjad Mahboob came in towards the end and restricted the scoring and picking up 3. So, but if I had to pick between the two, I would go for a bowler and I would go for Salador.
Yeah, look, I would have to agree with you as well. However, a lot of times these man of the match awards tend to go in a batsman's favour, and you know, having lost those 2 early wickets, Surendran stayed in, got that 50, got them home in a hurry, which will help them with the run rate. That would certainly have him in contention as well. Folks, stay tuned in as we will bring in the presentations for today's match to you very shortly. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow and on Sunday. Sunday is a morning game. It's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Singapore versus Nepal. Promises to be a cracker of a game. Stay tuned in for the man of the match presentations.